up, Taiwan? I'm Reece with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. We begin with the latest on a spike in Chinese military activity around Taiwan. The Foreign Ministry and Presidential Office are accusing China of disrupting trade, and it's calling on Beijing to stop violating international law. According to officials here in Taiwan, China has deployed the largest naval fleet in decades around the country, but it's stopped short of officially announcing any drills. A ploy some say is to keep the country on edge. Rick Glowett has more.
Let's first take a look at the Chinese military activity being reported by Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense, or the MND. The Ministry of National Defense is saying there's been 53 Chinese military planes around Taiwan, 25 of those inside Taiwan's air defense identification zone. That's this white box here. This is higher than usual. On a normal day, we'll see between 10 and 15 Chinese planes around Taiwan. Now, Beijing, since Monday, has set up 7 so-called temporary reserved areas in areas to the east of their coast, 1,000 kilometers from Shanghai down to Fujian. Now, these sort of restrictions on civilian and foreign vessels are often a sign of drills or exercises. But significantly this time, Beijing has not confirmed it's been doing any drills. Taiwan has also been saying that it hasn't seen any live fire drills in this area. But Taiwan has been flagging a very alarming maritime deployment. It's the largest in nearly 3 decades, they're saying. Now, the security sources have been telling Reuters that there's about 90 vessels, Coast Guard, Navy vessels in this area. And they haven't actually disclosed exactly where these boats are, but we do know that they're in the first island chain. That's from Japan in the north, south towards Taiwan, Borneo, and up to Vietnam. And we also know that China's Navy is building so-called walls of boats in the Pacific. One wall is to the east of Taiwan, the other one further out in the Pacific. And the Ministry of National Defense says that with these movers, China is practicing denying access to Taiwan, cutting it off from other countries. Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has said China is disrupting international trade and called on Beijing to stop violating international law. When asked about this military activity, Beijing has said that it will never let go of unchecked separatist forces seeking independence in Taiwan. Taiwan says that it is going to remain on high alert as this activity continues.
That was Rick Glowett reporting from the studio here in Taipei. For more on what China's exercises mean for the region and why there hasn't been an official announcement, Jaime Ocon spoke to Raymond Guo, a security analyst with the RAND Corporation.
Raymond, the last time we saw China conduct a large-scale military exercises, Beijing usually announces what they're doing and for how long. With this recent surge in activity from China, why do you think they haven't announced anything?
Part of it, at least in my mind, is I'm trying to actually ratchet down the temperature. They need to respond, or at least they think they need to respond in some way to Lai Ching-te's trips to the Pacific Islands, as well as stopping over in Hawaii and Guam. They consider that a provocation, so they think they have to respond to this. At the same time, I think Joint Soar 2024B, it was so short and so sudden, partly because, and called off so quickly, partly because, they were kind of relying upon, I think, a political narrative. With 2024A, they could say like, look, Lai Ching-te, his speech was quite provocative. I didn't necessarily think so, but, at least they could hang their hat on that. With 2024B, there really wasn't much there with a double 10-day speech for China to justify a large-scale military exercise. Similarly, so I think they got a little bit burned from that. The issue here is that Beijing really doesn't want to internationalize the issue. They want the cross-strait relations just to be a bilateral question.
And Taiwan's defense ministry said that China has deployed its largest naval fleet in nearly 3 decades since 1996. What do you make of that increase in activity?
And I think these 90 or so ships includes some amount of Coast Guard vessels, maritime patrol, and administration. And so you're seeing their increasing integration. Many of these vessels are quite capable in and of themselves, at least against non-military forces or units. But this is also a really wide area, right? We're talking thousands and thousands of miles of coastline and ocean, but at the same time, the use of military alongside, let's say, administrative or law enforcement units is relatively good practice for the PLAN and the the People's Liberation Army Navy and the Chinese Coast Guard to enhance their operational and joint operational capacity.
In terms of what China wants to accomplish with this surge in activity, do you think this is more of a show of force, or is this an actual practical exercise that they're using to practice some sort of future operation?
Well, there's no doubt that it's to some degree a practical movement. That it is practice is operational training or training for the ultimate operation. Now, whether that's gray zone or invasion, that depends on the types of training that they actually do. But at the same time, you still have to worry about the capabilities. The ability to rapidly advance that many ships, even across that big of an area, is concerning. And so raising alerts, I think certainly makes sense. Having forces to at least monitor what's going on and demonstrate presence, I think, is also a good sign as well.
That was Raymond Guo from the RAND Corporation. New official data shows real wage growth in Taiwan has outpaced inflation, marking the highest uptick in 4 years. Average real regular wages adjusted for inflation rose by 0.5% in the first 10 months of this year. Real total wages, which include overtime and bonuses, increased by over 1.8%. Both figures represent 4-year highs. But another figure is causing concern. Almost 70% of workers are earning below average regular wages. Officials are pointing to Taiwan's high-paying electronics industry, which has been booming, with more bonuses being handed out, skewing the numbers. A proposal to open the service sector to migrant workers has angered labour activists already on hunger strike over government policies. They say officials are making decisions without consulting workers, and that workers won't stand being ignored any longer. John Van Trieste reports.
Labor activists gather across from the headquarters of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party. For 3 days, they've been camped out by the Labor Ministry demanding changes to the law, from better overtime pay to the return of public holidays cut from the calendar. Some are even on a 100-hour hunger strike. As they see it, though, far from listening, ruling party officials are adding to the list of grievances. And so they've stepped away from their camp this morning to protest, hoping these officials will see their anger. What set off this morning's protest are fresh reports officials have floated the idea of opening Taiwan's service sector to migrant workers in a Tuesday night meeting with business interests. There would be conditions. Local workers' salaries would have to go up first. But these protesters are skeptical.
那它是会每年提升，还是一次性提升？而且有没有规定最低要提升多少？而不要只是丢一个新闻出来，搞得好像是他说了算。
They say migrant labor is something that needs to be properly assessed beforehand. They're concerned about local workers being pushed out of the service sector, which they say is often a safe backup for those who lose their jobs or can no longer do them due to age. Lastly, they are frustrated at what they see as a double standard in the government's treatment of labor versus capital.
增加国定假日，还有提高加班费率，政府都会一直强调必须要有社会共识。那我们工会团体就想问，请问我们现在卓院长除了跟商总讨论以外，有没有跟哪些工会团体有讨论过？ 那这就是为什么让我们绝食的代表觉得说，对卓院长来说，我们的行政院、我们的执政党，是不是跟资方团体说好了，就是社会共识？
Protesters don cardboard cutout masks representing the president, labor minister, and moneyed interests, with the labor minister and president working to keep these interests happy. After this performance, the protesters head back to their labor ministry encampment. No official or party rep has stepped out, but they say they aren't done yet. In fact, the chief hunger striker says they intend to get louder about their demands.
12月21号，我们会在自由广场有一个公务部门的员工自己自办的尾牙，会有活动啊。然后1月2号我们会有一个尊严修法联盟。
And even just today, these groups have more planned, starting with a protest against workplace bullying back at the Labor Ministry. Whether they get an official response or not, this small but animated group says it isn't going to be quiet anytime soon. Scott Huang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
South Korea's former defense minister reportedly attempted suicide while in detention over his alleged involvement in last week's brief martial law declaration. An official said Kim Jong-hyun is in stable health after failing to take his own life and has been placed in a protective cell. Kim remains detained while prosecutors mull formal charges. The head of South Korea's national police was also arrested today, and the presidential office was raided as investigations into the martial law declaration expand. President Yoon Suk-yeol surprised many by declaring martial law on December 3rd, only to rescind it 6 hours later. Yoon has not been seen in public since Saturday, when he apologized for the declaration. An attempt to impeach him failed to reach the required two-thirds majority in the country's parliament. The US has successfully conducted its first ballistic missile interception test from Guam. The Pentagon has described the test as a significant milestone in the island's defense capabilities. Guam, a US territory in the Western Pacific, plays a crucial role in maintaining US presence in the region. According to Reuters, Washington plans to spend $10 billion to deploy its most advanced missile defense systems in Guam. Washington and Beijing are battling for influence in the Pacific. Thousands of people are evacuating after a violent volcanic eruption in the central Philippines. Mount Canlaon blasted clouds of ash 4,000 meters into the sky. More than 50,000 people could be affected, with drone footage showing a nearby town covered in ash. Authorities are warning of lava flows and the potential for a hazardous eruption within the next few weeks. Mount Canlaon is one of the Philippines' most active volcanoes. Strawberry prices in Taiwan have spiked as production drops by half. Cadence Quaranta reports on how climate change and pests are taking a bite out of one of the country's winter fruits.
Plump and red, and usually abundant during late fall to spring in Taiwan, strawberries are found in all kinds of desserts and drinks. But this year, strawberry season is looking a little different, with Taiwan facing a shortage after producing around 50% less than usual. That's because hot temperatures, likely influenced by climate change, as well as pests and diseases, are causing crops to die.
2个台风前都非常的炎热，又是我们栽种期。那苗矿种下去之后呢，就比较容易死掉。那死掉重种又是慢。
The shortage of strawberries has caused prices to soar in Taiwan, with 1 kilogram of strawberries now costing over $30, and meaning some are choosing not to use the fruit on their desserts.
目前草莓很贵，所以我们就会用其他的水果来代替。
But some farmers in Taiwan's central Miaoli County, which produces most of the country's strawberries, are trying something new, a different kind of planting method where strawberries are planted in elevated containers rather than in the ground. This protects strawberry crops from hot temperatures, and farmers say it's been working, increasing their profit.
预估提升1.6倍。再来，我们因为气候的影响。
Farmers say as more strawberries grow, prices will return to normal, likely after Lunar New Year. But for now, Taiwan's strawberry shortage continues. James Lin and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
Droves of venomous minnow war have washed up along Taiwan's east coast. The blue jellyfish-like sea creatures were pushed ashore by strong northeastern winds. Beachgoers are being warned to wear shoes while walking along the coast and not touch the balloon-like zooids.
是因为脚踩到，听到啵啵啵啵啵的声音。任职6年当中，就今天最多。我会跟那个游客说，然后我们自己清，像我今天是清洁。
Minnow war tentacles deliver a painful sting and in severe cases can cause death. Well, thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, today we take you to Hong Kong, where these pandas are meeting the public for the first time. I'm Reece. Take care and see you next time.